Now let's take a look at your Sunday betting preview in the NFL, brought to you by OffshoreInsiders.com and DuffyGifts.com for all occasions. Joe Duffy's picks at OffshoreInsiders.com. Sunday NFL Wise Guy play and major sides. That's right, a Wise Guy play on one side, a major play on the other. Monday, you got Georgia-Alabama side in total. If you're watching this before the Saturday kickoffs, get both sides in the NFL as well. Joe Duffy's picks at OffshoreInsiders.com. Now let's take a look at some news and notes for the Bills and the Jaguars. The Jaguars laying 8.5 with a total of 39.5. When a team is in the playoffs despite being outscored by at least 35 points per game for the season, it's going over 8-1, including 8 straight. And the bad team, quote-unquote bad team that's in the playoffs, is actually 5-4 straight up and against the spread. That would favor Buffalo. Now, by the way, in those games, these 9 games where it's applied, an average of 54.2 points were scored. Only the 5th time in history that the team's respective margins had a season-to-date difference of at least 205 in a playoff game. So the net margin is a difference of 205 in a playoff game. The superior team is 3-1 straight up, but 2-2 against the spread in those circumstances. Playoff favorites of at least 4 points on a 2-game losing streak are actually 8-0 against the spread by a 31-8 to 14.4 margin. That would favor the Jaguars. Blake Bortles, Jaguars quarterback, has a 96 quarterback rating in the first half, 72.4 in the second half. And remember, at sportsbooks such as mybookie.ag, you can bet first and second half lines as well as some live lines. Running back LaShawn McCoy is day-to-day with an ankle injury, but really the latest says he is probably not going to play. 1,138 rushing yards, 59 receptions. The Jaguars get 141 rushing yards per game. The team is normally allowing just 111, while the Bills allow 125 to 107. So, the theory here is that Jacksonville will just keep running the ball straight at Buffalo and literally try to ram the ball down their throat. Almost dead even in public betting, split among our sources. We know various sources offshore, even outlaw, exclusive, and we do have Vegas sources as well. And it's kind of dead even, but, slight lean either way, depending on which source we check. Now, remember, although the public generally likes to bet favorites, once you get into the playoffs, and this is really true in all sports, they all of a sudden do start to like underdogs. So a lot of people who like to use contrarian information, you weight it often, like during the regular season, for example, 70% on a, maybe an 8.5 point favorite, as is the case here, is really equal to about 53% on an 8.5 point underdog. But once you get into the playoffs, you can almost go with the pure numbers. Now let's get to some trends, which are brought to you by mybookie.ag. Remember, you should always shop around. Every single sportsbook that I recommend and use myself in line shopping is at OffshoreInsiders.com, including MyBookie.ag, and I made arrangements. You will get the maximum bonus that they have available if you enter promo code Duffy, D-U-F-F-Y. The Bills and the Jaguars, as far as over-under trends, Bills have dropped 4 straight playoff games. All records are ATS until we talk about over-unders. The Jaguars are 6-1 following a straight-up loss. They are 6-2 versus the AFC. 6-17 after allowing less than 150 yards rushing, 150 yards passing in the previous game. 3-11 after allowing less than 250 total yards in their previous contest. Buffalo is 5-2 in Jacksonville. Some over-under trends for you. Jacksonville has gone under 7-1 to the AFC, but over 10-4 at home. Now the Panthers and the Saints. The Saints are laying 6.5, total 48. Panthers 9-6 against the spread, but they've actually dropped 2 straight in the back pocket. Saints get 0.5 more yards per rush and 0.9 more yards per pass and 0.8 more yards per play than their opponents normally allow. Saints swept the season series, but favorites of 4.5 or more in the playoffs who swept their opponent during the regular season only 1-3 against the spread. Battle of number 4 and number 5 rushing offenses, so who knows with a high total here. Maybe the teams will run the ball a lot and keep it under. Cam Newton, a box of chocolates, makes a big number very tempting here. And there's really been no pattern as far as is it a case where Newton plays his best against the worst teams, worst against the best? No. there really hasn't been much of a pattern as to when he performs well and when he doesn't. Playoff teams off a double-digit loss, 8-19-1. That would say to fade the Panthers. And again, almost dead even in our public betting consensus among our various sources. Now let's take a look at some spread betting trends brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code Duffy, D-U-F-F-Y, for the maximum bonus that they will allow. Again, all records are ATS. Carolina 6-1, following a straight-up loss. 3-7 on field turf. 3-10 after accumulating less than 90 yards rushing in their previous game. New Orleans, a stunning 23-4 at home versus teams with a winning road record. They are, though, 1-4 after allowing more than 350 total yards in their previous game. The underdogs covered 6-7 in the series. The road team is 23-10 in this series. And New Orleans has covered 6 straight in the series. Carolina, as far as some over-unders are concerned, Carolina has gone over 18-7 after scoring less than 15 points in the previous game. New Orleans has gone over 6 straight following a straight-up loss. Please remember to like us, give us a heart if you're watching on Periscope, comment, embed, retweet. Remember the best handicappers and the most thoroughly vetted sports books. You should use at least 4 or 5 sports books. And we've got the best ones to use at offshoreinsiders.com, as well as best handicappers. Literally every single handicapper we have has been winning since before the internet, going back to the scorephone days when the scorephones were the capital of the gambling world. Still got handicappers who are the absolute best at what they do.